Our next presenter and speaker is McCracken. Ian is the Business Development Director at Balcas Energy. Balcas is a leading producer of wood pellet and renewable energy solutions across the UK and Ireland. And Ian has extensive experience in the forestry and biomass sectors, overseeing operations in timber processing, combined heat and power and wood pellet production under the Brights brand. Under his leadership, Balcas has contributed significantly to the development of the sustainable biomass energy and the efficient use of forestry resources. He's actively involved in promoting low carbon heating solutions and supporting the transition to renewable heat. And Ian's presentation title is Wood Pellets and the Industrial Powder Burner Systems. So we thank Ian again and Balcas for their sponsorship, and I now hand over to you, Ian, to give your presentation.
Thanks, Sean. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ian. I've been given the slot. We've squeezed wood pellets in just before lunch, but we'll try not to keep you away from your meal. I have a confession. I worked in the fossil fuel industry for 26 years, gas. I was a sales director. I have a master's in engineering, but I went to the dark side of sales. So I have caused global warming, and I've now spent the last 13 years trying to do a little bit of fixing that with Paula and Colin. We've mentioned, there's a few people mentioned this. Obviously, the Donalfication of energy costs in recent months, it has not helped businesses, but it has changed what people ask us, and I just want to share that with you. It should also, I mean, it's sad for Iran and everywhere else in the world, but it should actually create business for all of us in this room, because people are now looking to move away. And the thing they're now coming and asking us, big corporations, is energy independence. And I'd have to say the first time it was mentioned, and I think it was Diageo, I had to kind of ask, well, what do you mean? But with all this instability, people are looking to move away from fuels that come from the Middle East and that can change price between going to sleep and waking up and double in price. And that seems to be taking priority, this energy independence, over decarbonisation with some people at the minute. So what we say to people is, well, it's the same offering from us. You actually can do both, energy independence and decarbonise at the same time. And you'll have heard Colin and Paula talk about powder burners, and these are very much a niche, and they don't suit everywhere, and not everywhere suits them, but we have focused on these over the last few years, and I just want to share some of the success we're now having, and the sort of applications that they suit. Basically, as you can see in the picture on the left, they look like an oil and gas boiler. It's a horizontal flame, like an oil and gas boiler. They atomize the fuel like an oil and gas boiler. And they can on, off, and modulate, again, like good old fossil fuel that I came from. And the other important thing is they have a similar footprint to oil and gas in terms of the boiler house and the fuel storage. So you don't need lots of extra space. You can actually fit into the same boiler house. Some of the systems that are now installed and finishing commissioning and running in GB, with 4 up and running, mostly with distilleries, with 3 6 megawatts installed with Diageo across 3 distilleries, Glenlossie, Manickmore and Linkwood, and with 1 5 megawatt installed on the Isle of Jura, and it was the first one. In hindsight, we should have picked somewhere other than Jura for the first one, because it's not the easiest of places to get to, but hey-ho. So combined, those 4 systems are going to reduce carbon emissions by around 25,000 tonnes and are going to supply in the region of 120,000 megawatts of energy to those sites per annum. So, and we'll supply that from our Scottish production site. And you've heard other people talk about it, and it's now in the public domain, but it's on the Enterprise Ireland website. So thank you to them for their support. But there's one now been ordered, and this time next year should be up and running in Ballahadreen. So County Roscommon, another first for Roscommon. they're going to have Ireland's first wood powder burner. And one of the things that they said in the press release, IrBEA, was that they hoped the new biomass system will provide greater energy cost certainty and support local employment across construction, engineering, and the wider supply chain. So that's not us saying that, that's the customer. The other thing I wanted to share is that, this is about energy mix and people using different fuel sources and energy sources to make their heat. And the factories and plants we've been working in use a lot of steam. This particular one, which is one of the Diageo sites, they had an existing 3 megawatt wood chip, which is the sort of bottom straight red line at the bottom. And we have put in 6 megawatts to displace the fossil fuel. So, we can work in conjunction with other fuels with this system. And indeed, the powder burners are dual fired, so they can also be bio-oil, biogas, or indeed good old fossil fuel. As either as a combination with the powder instead of the powder, or again, if it goes on to low firing. So it gives people the ability to use more energy sources. I mean, the basic system components, and without teaching my granny how to suck eggs, it's very simple. There's 3 stages, 4 if you count them. Fuel storage, fuel silos, fuel prep, which is taking the beautiful pellets and grinding them into powder. There's a powder burner, and then there's flue gas treatment, which we have been using electrostatic precipitators to make it all MCPD compliant, if I get my acronyms correct. Again, basic system components. You can see the silos on the left. That's again one of our distillery sites in Scotland that's been running for about 10 years. And that has enough fuel storage there for over a week to 10 days. It's a small footprint. Again, a lot of these industrial sites are very tight. So that's a footprint of 8 by 4 meters. If it's a powder burner, the second stage is the hammer mill, which again, a lot of these distilleries would have hammer mills on site anyway for treating the malt. And the other stage is the powder burner itself, and that's a 16 megawatt one in that picture, and you can see how compact it is, and that just bolts on to a shell and tube boiler. The other thing that powder burners, and again, we're speaking to a lot of aggregate companies and asphalt companies, the company that produces this has a lot of installations in Scandinavia. So you can actually decarbonize the production of asphalt and replace your oil and gas burners, which are up to 20 megawatts in some sites, with one of these powder burners. Just unbolt your gas one and bolt this one straight in. So it's opened up applications that biomass and wood pellets never had before. In terms of the fuel behind the application, Balcas, we're part of Glennon Brothers, Irish family-owned business. It's been growing in size. It's now about 500, 600 million euro turnover, processing 2.5 million tons of sustainably sourced wood fibre, about 3.5 million tons transported by road sea annually, so we're a bit of a logistics company as well as sawmillers. It's growing now to 1,500 employees, and then there's about half that again employed indirectly. So a company with scale, that if it makes a contract with you, you have reliability of supply. The strange thing with sawmillers, and this is the sort of Glennon sites, and I'm only showing you this because there's one on that. The business acquired Pontralis sawmills on the Welsh-English border earlier this year. So we have 4 primary sawmills, only one of which in Enniskillen has a wood pellet plant. So some people think there's not enough wood pellets in Ireland, and wood pellets have a robust supply chain, and there was other people in the room that make wood pellets, Laois sawmills and Leinster, and there's quite a few suppliers who can increase the capacity of production. And it's kind of chicken and egg, which comes first, production or the customer. But these things take 18 months to 2 years to install, and in that same time, we can increase production. We don't normally show, especially for competitors in the room, all our customers, but there they go, there they are. When you shrink the map, it hides all the little blank spots, but basically we're delivering everywhere on the 2 islands. We've been making wood pellets since 2005. We have more than 5,000 active customers, and we make about 25,000 individual deliveries every year. And these customers range in size from 5,000 kilowatts, which could be Mrs. Murphy and her stove, or Mr. and Mrs. Murphy, or Mr. and Mr. Murphy, or Mrs. and Mrs. Murphy, depending on what part of the world you're in, right up to customers who take 240,000 megawatts annually off us. We have 8 distribution locations, 40 delivery vehicles operating in peak season. And the thing that surprises people about wood pellets is that 80% of the volume we sell is actually used for commercial industrial use. Sort of home stoves and boilers is a relatively small part of what we do. You'll have seen this slide before, probably with Colin, but this is the bit, sawmillers just love cutting wood, and the energy business is kind of the waste disposal unit, because for every log that you cut, about half becomes finished timber, and the other half, we use it to make our own heat and electricity, and we use the residues to make wood pellets. So we're not cutting trees down to make energy, we're cutting trees down primarily to make sawn timber products. Do our shareholders think there's enough fiber? Yes, they do, because they're investing heavily, buying sawmills, increasing the capacity of sawmills, and the more saw logs they cut, the more residues we'll have to make wood pellets and energy. So, and it's the same as Des and Ken. In terms of, we guarantee supply for our contract customers. We have 2 manufacturing plants. We maintain unrivaled inventory within the industry, and we make the same amount every day. The plants go at 100%. In the winter, we sell more than we make. In the summer, we make more than we sell, and we build stock. And that's kind of how we operate. So it's not the accountants don't like it, but you know, coming into the start of winter, we might have 50,000 tons stored away, ready to sell, which takes a fair bit of working capital, they tell me, but this is what we do. Our industry has an established, robust supply chain that's been operating now for over 20 years, so this is not a new thing. We use renewable electricity and heat that we produce on site in our biomass CHP plants to manufacture the pellets, and also to kill and dry our sawn timber. And we manufacture them, as I just said, from forest and sawmill residues. And if we're processing 2.5 million tons of residues, of wood fiber through our sawmills, we have additional residues that we can process if there's demand. And we're carbon neutral and cost competitive with fossil fuels, even before the price doubled. So, interesting thing in the EU ETS is that the carbon saving they allow you for biomass and wood pellets depends, 1, where it comes from, and 2, so in terms of where it comes from, how far away it is from the point of use, and 2, how you manufacture it. And there's 3 cases. First case is if you're using heat that's generated by fossil fuel and you're taking the electricity off the grid, they only allow you a 72% greenhouse gas reduction. If you're using biomass heat and electricity off the grid, they allow you 87% greenhouse gas reduction. And if you're like Balcas and you're using biomass heat and biomass generated electricity, they allow you 95% greenhouse gas reduction. So, something to look out for. But we're learning more as we work more with larger EU ETS customers. So, we're not just a fuel supplier, we can do more if you want us to. And that involves turnkey installation. Again, we only get into boilers because there wasn't enough people involved in putting large ones in, but if someone in the room wants to help us do powder burners, happy to talk to you. We can supply on a cent per kilowatt basis, or fuel input or energy output. And we have contracts up to 20 years long with some of our customers who, again, they're indexed. And they're large customers like the Bacardis, Diageos, et cetera, of this world. We have a customer engineering team. So again, we can support and service and maintain these equipment. Because as a manufacturer, the last thing we want to do is build mountains of pellets with nowhere for them to go. We also do remote monitor and automatic replenishment, so the customer doesn't have to ring us to order. We can actually make sure we deliver. And as I say there, we have long-term energy pricing models, again, for our larger customers. So thanks for listening. It's lunchtime.
Thanks very much. Ian, if I could just invite Des and Ken just to come up in case there are any questions arising. So just before we go to lunch, is there any questions for any of our three presenters? If there are, if you could please just raise your hand. I don't see any hands being raised, so it looks as if, lads, you've made the journey up onto the stage for no good reason. So final chance, so I don't see any hands up, so we'll leave it at that. So I'd like to thank Ian, thanks Kenneth, and thanks Des for your presentations. I think they've all shown, first of all, what's happening in Ireland in terms of biomass deployment, but certainly the huge opportunity which exists and which is there, and which we should be exploiting over the next period. So can I ask you to show your appreciation for our three presenters? So just before you leave, just a few logistical points. So the lunch is going to be served. So you go through that door, up to the reception, turn left, past the reception, and to the right. It's in the old hall. There's a long hall up there, so it's in there. The lunch will be served. When you get your lunch, and after you've had your lunch, we encourage you to come back. The teas and coffees will be available here in the exhibition area. So we encourage you to come back and have the tea and coffee here, as it won't be served above, and engage with the trade and exhibitor stands. And we will reconvene sharply at 2:15. We did run slightly over, so lunch is now going to be straight away. So if I could ask everyone to move as quickly as possible to beyond the reception to the area and be directed to the lunchroom, and we see you at 2:15. Thanks very much.